Welcome back, guys, to more creepy TikToks, and let's dive in.
This bug is a zombie bug. It's dead. It's got no internal organs and it's still walking around. Yeah, that's a zombie.
Klaus Schwab will be licking his lips right now to the idea of chowing down on that crunch.
I can't even get it out. Oh my god! Babe! Holy crap!
I honestly hope none of you are eating any Chick-fil-A at home because, you know, for all you know, you could have been consuming plastic bags in your chicken.
I just got to neck Justin Bieber and grab his butt. I thought a little cougar scary.
Yeah.
But I took the opportunity in the window, considering I'll never get to do it again, and kind of molested him.
What available?
Imagine how hilarious that would be. That would be the cougar score of the century. Jenny McCarthy dates Justin Bieber.
Would you?
I want some Bieber fever, and I want a Bieber rash.
I want it all.
It'd be a cougar rape.
Disturbing to say the least. I mean, I'd give her a Bieber rash all right. With holy water, cast the demons out of her, that's what I would do.
But you're the company that put the sewage in there. Surely that has to be your responsibility at some stage.
I'm not saying we're not partially responsible for that, but we're not responsible for letting the public know whether they can swim in the rivers or not. That's up to them.
It's up to us, despite the fact that you know that there are unsafe levels of contaminants in that river right now.
There would be unsafe levels of contaminants from our normal discharge, let alone our storm discharge. So because we don't remove bacteria, or we don't remove some bacteria and pathogens from our normal treatment process. There is no disinfection. We're not, the Thames at this point isn't considered a bathing water. Therefore, our effluent is not safe. So our effluent is not safe to swim in, and that's not for us to tell you what to do or not to do.
People are going to get sick if you don't let them know what you've just told me.
Right, okay, yeah. I'm not sure what to say about that.
I honestly don't know what he's smiling about. I don't know if he's smiling because of the fact that he's enjoying giving this information, or whether he's smiling because of the fact that he's just awkward. He's trying to give as much truth to us as possible, you know, in a roundabout, quiet way. But either way, you guys should definitely not be paying water when it's being contaminated like this. That's no, doesn't no go there. Like.
This is Ted Sirios, a former bellhop from Chicago who gained enough credibility taking these so-called photographs because he was using Polaroid, which meant that they couldn't be faked like traditional images were faked in darkroom. For 3 years in the mid-1960s, he was studied at the University of Colorado by Dr. Jewel Eisenbud. Eisenbud worked to use scientific method by controlling the camera and film, never letting Sirios touch them. Often Sirios would wear clothes provided by researchers. He was even sometimes strip searched. Yes, and cavity searched. Sirios, unsurprisingly, was a megalomaniac and alcoholic, and researchers would continuously serve him alcohol during these sessions. The process was this: Sirios would take a rolled up tube of black paper from one of the Polaroid containers and call it a gizmo, and he would use that allegedly to focus his thoughts. With much fanfare, he would contort his body and face and signal the researchers when to take the photo. Dr. Eisenbud wholeheartedly believed in Sirios' abilities and published a book about him in 1967. Sirios' advocates stated several reasons for believing him. In the conditions of the room, you would expect most of the photos to turn out like these, where part or all of his face are visible, but some of them became blurry, some of them were completely white or completely black, which shouldn't have been the case in these lighting conditions. And in some cases, very recognizable images came forward. There were even some experiments where photos were concealed in envelopes, then wrapped in foil, and Sirios was able to reproduce a part of these photos that he had never seen.
I'm not sure how true this story is, so be sure to do your own research as always, guys. But in general, I don't believe in psychic abilities. I do believe in, you know, that person having like a gateway to the supernatural, like to demonic forces, but definitely not like psychic abilities.
So y'all know how we're supposed to be getting swarms of trillions of cicadas that was last seen when Thomas Jefferson was president over 200 years ago? Yeah, y'all remember when they was talking about that a couple weeks ago? Well, this is the first sightings of the cicada swarms. They have now started to pop up in some places in the US. And the craziest part about this is the pre-wave. This is not even the first wave. And I know some people have been saying that they see little clusters of cicadas like this, little small clusters. But this is nothing nowhere near what we're going to see in the weeks to come. Just letting y'all know, they're starting to wake up. And these are the areas inside the US where these cicadas will start to emerge from. Basically taking up 50% of the US.
I'm from the UK and Ireland, so I honestly couldn't tell you what a cicada is or if it harms humans or what the crack is there. But what I do know is that a cicada expert by the name of John Cooley from the University of Connecticut has stated that there's going to be a coming cicada get-on, so I don't know.
They'll have a big coven meeting where they're welcoming you in. And you come in a white robe and they baptize you, full subversion, in a big upside down demon skull. And it's human blood, pig's blood, and human urine. They pull you up out of that and you go into another room and you take a shower. And when you're in there, you get changed into a black robe with a red inverted pentagram. And you come out with the cowl raised up, and it signifies you've been baptized into a world of darkness. And they read the document off that you signed the night before. They show your signature, and you also pull off the Band-Aid and show your thumb. And then they give you a wheel. It's about this big around, and it has a crucifix in the middle. And you can spin it. You spin it upside down, signifying human sacrifice. You grab the arms of Jesus and break them downward, denouncing Christ. And then you have an orgy to celebrate that you're now a Satanist. Though the reality is you're celebrating that one day you're going to die and go to hell.
See, my question is here, anyone who's joined the satanic cult, I mean, were they believers in Christ at one point and then just rebelled against him? You know, did they get bitterness in their hearts, or what's the crack there, you know? But did you notice the optic illusion picture in the background when he was talking? I couldn't tell you if it was a man holding a lamb or sheep over his head, or if it was like a skull with like the pentagram in the background. Yeah, weird.
Some shocking new video showing the moment that a freight train caught fire in Ontario as it sped through the city of London. That's in the southwestern part of Ontario. Happened last night. Take a look. The train was traveling down the Canadian Pacific Rail line, eventually stopped in a residential area. So, multiple fire crews scrambling to the scene. They were able to disconnect the locomotives, get it under control after about an hour and a half. It's still unclear exactly how the train caught fire, but imagine seeing this in your neighborhood and how terrifying that would be.
What is the crack with you guys over in the US? I mean, you've got constant train derailments, you've got trains that are being set alight, you've got trains that are spilling chemicals into water, into land. I mean, the list kind of goes on. I mean, I can see if it happens once, that's okay, but when it's constantly happening over the span of 1 to 2 years, there's obviously something that's really going on there and something a lot more menacing.
Forever chemicals linked to cancer found in more than half of fruit and veg in UK supermarkets. The latest study examined more than 3,300 samples of food and drink on sale in the UK for trace of 401 pesticides. PFAS are widely called forever chemicals because they may never leave the human body once consumed and can lead to serious health conditions, including cancer, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, low fertility, repressed immune system, as well as serious health conditions. Pest and Action Network analysed the test results and found strawberries were at the top of the list. 95% of 120 test samples containing PFAS. Other foods that contain the most toxins included grapes with 61%, cherries 56%, spinach 42%, and tomatoes at 38%. The programme found a total of 56.4% of samples tested contained a residue of pesticides. Given the growing body of evidence linking PFAS to serious diseases such as cancer, it is deeply worrying that UK consumers are being left with no choice but to ingest these chemicals. Some plastic food packaging also contaminated with PFAS and PFAS present in UK drinking water and soil. We urgently need to develop a better understanding of health risks with ingesting these forever chemicals. So you need to be washing your fruit and veg, and you need to stop drinking tap water and bottled water. It is shit. So change something. Do not trust these people.
It just seems like no matter what you do, they're always going to find a way to poison you in some way. You know, at this stage, I'd just be happy going back to the days where you craft your own spear, go hunting yourself, and then just drinking spring water or finding a means to drink water from like a well or something.
What are these bloody billionaires doing satanic ritual sacrifices to their version of the gods? I'm investigating these rich and famous billionaires of today who are players in this cult, and again and again and again, I'm led into Satanism. They're doing it to the same gods. They're same frickin' entities that the ancients were doing the sacrifices to and were terrified of. These people today are doing the sacrifices to in the cult. And I've talked to people all over the world, and I've met Satanists and people that took part in rituals against their will who told me of their experiences. So what do the frickin' gods get out of it then? These entities, by their very nature, are very low vibrational in nature, because anyone that wants to impose their will and manipulate and cause suffering and war and death and destruction is in a very low vibrational state. And if they're going to feed off human energy, they can only feed off it if we are delivering it within the band of frequency they can absorb. Because otherwise, if we were in a world of love and joy and happiness and peace, then we'd be giving off frequencies, yes, but much higher, more expanded frequencies, and they wouldn't be able to absorb them, like radio stations in the old analog system, sharing the same space but not interfering with each other because they're on different wavelengths. You have this demonic hierarchy. And then you have the human hierarchy. That hierarchy is for public consumption. This hierarchy is the one that's calling the shots.
To me, what he says makes sense. You know, when you think about the demons and the low vibration frequencies, and then you think about these, you know, the rituals and the sacrifices that take place, and then you look at the way things are in today's world with the wars and destruction and people's hearts being filled with hate these days. People want to do bad. There's not enough love anymore in the world. When you go through the town or city and you're driving or you're walking, you know, people don't have patience anymore. People don't have tolerance. People are very angry, very bitter. It's like that low vibration, and it's almost as if like it's the spirit of the Antichrist.
AI takeover is here. Boston Dynamics has announced a new Atlas robot that moves in a very creepy way. This is their new humanoid robot. I hope that you all are ready for the AI takeover that they are pushing left and right, because they want to replace each and every one of us with AI humanoid robots. The robot takeover is surely upon us. Beware of this takeover. What do you all think about this?
You know, the 1%, they know that we can overthrow them at one point, and so their best defense is to build these weapons, to build these robots. And say, for example, if there was a ratio of like maybe 5 or 10% to 90% of humans, you know, them robots could be remotely controlled, and that would give them a good defense, if I'm honest with you. So maybe that's what their plan is.
This is listen, man, I'm really on orders. Okay. And you probably don't believe me, and you probably don't even care, and it's okay. But people are getting hurt, and this ties into a whole bunch of stuff. They've been selling our weapons and our fucking military equipment over in Mexico to the cartels. And I've been able to prove that, and that's why I'm supposed to go back to the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, because there's boats. If you ride around in Chula Vista and go right over there by fucking, what is that called? The industrial plaza, by the Food for Less, and you'll see there's Navy boats that came from the SEAL boat installation that they took out, and they're taking them apart and they're taking them across the border. All of that stuff is going across the border, and I'm not lying to you, man.
Well, Marine, I wish you all the luck. Semper Fi. I'm a former Marine myself.
We're gonna need a lot more than luck. If those cartel members use that stuff against us, and they are going to use that stuff against us, we're gonna need a lot more than luck.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Godspeed.
He comes across honest, and his body language and his eye contact and just the way he goes on tells me that he's actually telling the truth here. But what do you guys think?
The White House telling Fox Business it's now considering declaring a national climate emergency. But that's a climate crisis to you, Mark. The AP, which sets the standards for newsrooms across the country, they're urging Americans to use the term climate crisis to address the current situation. This is all troubling, but if the president declares a climate emergency, what impact does that have?
Well, I mean, this is the serious story of the today. NBC News has reported that if Joe Biden declares a national climate emergency, he would have COVID-like powers under that emergency, and they also compared the emergency powers to the 9/11 emergency powers. The Center for Biological Diversity has estimated Joe Biden would get about 130 wartime-like powers by which to bypass democracy and impose a Green New Deal on America without a single vote of Congress. This is truly this is a Halloween story, not a story for Earth Day. This is a truly frightening story, and he might just be desperate enough to do it. This is being widely reported in the media. The Biden White House is leaking this out. This might happen, and this is going to give Joe Biden these kind of, you want to say the word dictatorial powers. He doesn't need no stinking democracy to impose the Green New Deal if he does this.
That's an awful lot of power just for a climate crisis, isn't it? But we know that they've been busting their cheeks, to get a climate change lockdown on the go. And honestly, if this does come to fruition, it couldn't have fallen into any worse hands.
I got fish!
What's that you're showing me, son? Is that some chocolate ice cream? Let me have a look at it.
It's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. This is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. It's done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. The next stage is destabilization. It takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have normalization. It may last indefinitely. This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth.
I promise you.
To destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C. Your leftists, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation.
This isn't just happening in the US, this is happening in every country all over the world. As far as I'm concerned, step 1, step 2, and step 3 has been completed, and step 4 is almost to completion from what I see. So my question is, what is the next stage?
Please help me! Please help me!
This terrifying video out of Oregon comes from ABC News. And while disturbing, she was found safe and unharmed, and the assailant arrested for kidnapping. But it reminded me of another disturbing ring camera video that, to my knowledge, was never solved. And after this footage was released, the police did an investigation but came up empty-handed. But this is a good reminder as to why you should always have a doorbell camera, because it could be the lead in the case that solves a crime. Here's that clip now. Slight trigger warning.
I like how they just stood there and didn't do a thing. I mean, I do get it. I understand that it could be a prank, or, there's other factors there. Maybe it was like their parents dragging the daughter away from like an abusive relationship or something, or whatever have you, But for me personally, if that ever happened to my doorstep, I would definitely be in that car straight up and chasing them. No questions asked. CDC isn't Centers for Disease Control, it's creating diseases through chemtrails.
I was wondering if you think it's a good idea to reduce 90% of the population because we are being overpopulated by a lot of... 90%. 80? Prince Philip said 80, sir. I go with 85.
I think 2 billion is about right.
2 billion is about right. This is the founder of the United Nations Foundation. He gave the United Nations $1 billion. Do you just give someone $1 billion if you don't agree with what they're doing? And the United Nations does the WHO, which claims to be saving all these millions of lives. Why would somebody who wants the population to be killed off by 6 billion?
This is why you never trust anything or anyone that's associated with govs, because they're not for you. They never were for us people. You know, I mean, if anything has taught us over the last few years is that they only care about themselves and the corruption. But, you know, the guy saying 2 billion is quite generous considering the fact that the guy Stones was offering 500 million, you know.
Once upon a time, there was a civilization that was far superior and more sophisticated than we could ever imagine. This civilization was systematically destroyed and hidden from our history books. This civilization used atmospheric energy to obtain electricity. Having free energy meant that humanity could focus on more serious endeavors, such as creation, creativity, love, and self-development. We see these same geometric, beautiful buildings all over the world, from Africa to China to Japan to South America to Europe. These buildings show us that we lived in an interconnected culture, a culture that understood the deeper levels of existence and how to harness electromagnetic energy. History is a lie and a story built by our oppressors to continue to keep us enslaved, but we will rise again.
Sometimes when I see these clips, I sometimes think to myself, you know, like, what way would the world be today if we still had Tartaria, if we still had that old technology? Like, how advanced would we be in today's world, in today's society?
We actually fund ourselves and then work out what dividend is needed to pay. So we kind of it's a great business to be in, central banking. You print money and people believe it.
Of course, central banking is a great business. I mean, he even said it himself, you know, they fund themselves. I mean, you can't get any better business than that.
This is wild, guys. God is not playing games. You won't believe what happens after this pastor completely misrepresents God. Watch this.
People have called you Mother Nature, Mother God, Holy Mother God, for you are more than any single description of gender or personality. There are all those contradictions in the Bible. I am one who does not believe it was dictated by God.
But just after 2 o'clock on Friday, witnesses told firefighters they saw and heard a lightning strike believed to have hit the steeple.
This is how serious God gets when it comes to leading his children astray.
So this pastor's name is Bruce McLeod, or McLeod. I'm not too sure how to pronounce his surname, to be honest. But I wouldn't refer to him as a pastor. I would refer to him as a Satanist, you know, trying to overthrow the churches and preach false doctrine. I mean, you can't say God is a mother. You know, that's one of the most disgusting things you could say. And quite frankly, I'm glad that, you know, the lightning struck that church, because hopefully that will make that man learn his lesson. That's the end of the show for today, guys, but there will be a final clip added at the end of the video. But I hope you enjoyed this creepy compilation, and smash that like button, subscribe button, and tick the notification bell. And until the next video, please guys, look after yourselves, stay safe and stay healthy, and I'll see you then.
How was school today? Hello? I'm just a bear driving.
Daddy, is that?
Nope, I'm a bear. You're in my world now. You want to go home? You are home in my bear cave.